Hi and welcome to Wow Flash. This is my weekly look at anything to do with the news relating to Warcraft and relevant to my channel from the past 7 days. No title slide. So for those who watch this each week, you may be wondering two things. First of all, Saturday, what's going on? Usually do this on Friday. Second of all, why no title slide? There are answers to those, but it's sort of channel related news. So there's going to be two things in here. It's going to be the sort of normal news segment. Then I'm going to do sort of channel related news. I'm going to put that at the end because some people like to see the bits of news and my take on it without all the channel stuff that goes along with it. So first of all, Broken Shore, more stuff has come out. Now, Blizzard had already said, remember, in 7.2, we are going to be getting like this 11-week sequence leading up to the breach of the Tomb of Sargeras, and then we're into the raid. Okay, they're not saying exactly when that raid is going to open up, but we assumed round about 11, maybe at least 11 weeks, shall we say, after the launch of patch 7.2. Which means that each week, each reset, we get a small amount of new content in the form of like a quest or something being released. Now, a lot of people don't really like that. If you look on the forums, it's again to do with why can't we just binge on this, just give it us all, do it in our own time. I did a video last week talking about the reasons why I think Blizzard timegate stuff these days. So I'm not going to go over that again. But the content that came this reset was that Champions of Legion fall, which gives you the sort of extra champion and a really boring quest. But it also allows you to start up your order hall research again with the last two bits there. In fact, yeah, the Paladin one, I did a video on that. It was stunningly dull. I really don't know what that was about. I noticed that Noble, who's like the lore master on YouTube, he does a lot of lore videos, and he decided to rank them, I noticed, or roughly into categories, like good, not so good, and oh my god, what? And the Paladin was not in the bottom category. And I thought, I've only tried the Paladin one so far, admittedly, and I thought, how bad must some of the other class ones be for the Paladin one to be in the middle of? And then I thought to myself, well, maybe it's just not an enjoyment thing. My main gripe with it just wasn't enjoyable. Maybe, you know, he does it from a lore point of view. The story was rubbish as well. So really, oh my god. But some people on that video that I did say, oh no, I did it for this class, like the monk or something like that. It was actually really good. So there are some good ones. There's some equally frustrating ones. I think the Death Knights were particularly frustrated. I think that might have been a mechanics thing rather than the storyline thing. But anyway, the other thing is we've got the second bite at the Mage Tower. Now, a couple of things about this is, first of all, people are now realising that the bonus is not the same each time. I talked about this in my sort of buildings review. That sort of bottom bonus, there are 4 different types for each building, and they either cycle through or it's RNG. I strongly suspect they will cycle through, otherwise that'd be really annoying for people. And I don't think Blizzard need to piss people off even more than they, I'm not saying that they are doing that. They're generally doing a good job, let's be fair. But sometimes you just get the feeling they just put some things in and you think it's not doing you any good and it's just annoying people. So I think it would annoy people if they didn't cycle around. So in other words, they weren't predictable. So last time with the Mage Tower, it was bonus artifact power with bosses from like raids and dungeons. This time it's bonus artifact power occasionally on an RNG basis with world quests. So people have been going around. Quite handy that people have been getting flying around about now to run around and do all the world quests. I've not really been able to do that, but again, I'll come to that at the end of the video. But Blizzard did bring out some interesting statistics on the challenge mode quest. They said, for example, that, I keep saying challenge mode quest, artifact challenge quest, 15.2 million attempts. Now, this would have been from the first, this won't be right up to date now because they brought this out just as the Mage Tower was going live roughly. So I think this is just from the first 3 days of the first Mage Tower. 15.2 million challenge attempts. Wow. I did have a think because they've released some more stats and I thought of having a go at coming up with some crude measure for maybe how many players have done it, but I don't. I'd be making assumptions. I don't want to do that. But they did say 135,000 victorious characters. Now that's characters, of course. Some people have multiple characters and will have achieved it on multiple characters. Although I would say they would be in a small minority. So I'm going to go out on a limb and suggest that's probably at least 100,000 people, actual people, that have achieved a challenge quest success, which is pretty impressive. If someone had asked me before, or even at the end of the Mage Tower thing after I've done mine, you know, how many people do you think would have done this? Actual people? I'm not sure. I would have guessed 100,000. I feel a bit less special now. They also said the 32 average attempts to succeed. Now, this is where you can do a little bit of maths to be interesting. So what I did is I said, okay, 135,000 victorious characters, and if each one was taking an average of 32, we assume that's a mean average. Usually people do mean averages for stuff like this, whether it's sensible or not. I would argue a median average would make more sense, but when people say average, they usually mean mean. So if we multiply 32 by 135,000, we get just over 4 million. It's about 4.3 million. So what we can conclude from that, there were about 4.3 million attempts which were ultimately successful on that character. Now, given that they've told us there were 15.2 million attempts, that means only about a quarter of all those attempts were ultimately successful. In other words, 3/4 of all those attempts were ultimately doomed not to complete it before the Mage Tower was destroyed. Hopefully some of those people would have had more luck this time round. But one area where a lot of people did struggle severely was with the tanking one. The tanking one, by all accounts, was a fearsome beast. And to the point where I'm told, and this is not hugely reliable, but I am told that only one protection paladin did it, for example, and some other tanking classes, again, just a smattering of people did it. So, you know, and Blizzard have nerfed the tanking one a bit. It is still a pretty severe challenge, I gather. I've not tried it myself. Not even going to try. I don't even have legendaries on my tank, let alone a good weapon or good gear for it or anything like that. Or indeed any skill as a tank. So I'm certainly not trying that. But yeah, it was horrendous by all accounts. So imagine, I mean, that figure of 135,000 successful ones, had they got the tuning on the tanking one right, could have been significantly more. Or maybe if they'd have tuned the other one's title, it would have been significantly less, who knows. And until Blizzard talk about it, and probably not now, they're probably not going to say, oh yeah, we got anything wrong with it. But maybe in the next expansion, if someone brings it up again, maybe they'll candidly say whether they think they got it just right. Because remember, they always said about these challenge quests was, it's there for the expansion. They intend for only a small number of people to achieve it early on, but as your gear gets better, and they sort of say even when your gear is really good, it will still be a challenge. You've still got to actually do the thing mechanically correct. But it will get easier with gear because, you know, those margins for error will increase. And so, yeah, but is that the case now? I mean, if people are completing it, if we've got 135,000 successes, have they tuned it too low? Maybe. And again, bear in mind, that's heavily weighted in favor of DPS and healers, we assume, because no one said that the DPS or healing ones were too hard, just the tanking ones. But the other thing is 7.2.5 has gone on the PTR as well. I need to have a little go at that tomorrow. So, as Blizzard, true to their word, have said, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, I'll leave it up to you. But they're true to their word. They did say that as soon as one patch goes live, the next one goes onto the PTR almost immediately. And it's exactly what's happening. They've introduced a few new things. So there's going to be raid, time walking raid, which is going to be Black Temple. Now we've sort of had this in the form of Molten Core in the 10th anniversary. They sort of did a special Molten Core LFR type thing. So we assume it's going to be along the same lines. I certainly don't think it's going to be something for which you use an organized group. Why would you bring that alongside an actual established raid? That would make no sense. So it's presumably going to be an LFR thing. How often it stays up, because remember the actual idea of time walking dungeons is they're there for a week and then you don't get any more until the next month. I don't know how long this one will be. They're not going to get away with only leaving it up for a week. It's a bit like the Molten Core one. I think they intended that one to be up for a week, but people were so into it they kept it up for another week. Maybe the same thing will happen here, but it would be a shame. I don't know how much effort it would have taken to do it. I can't imagine it would have been as straightforward as the Molten Core one. In fact, if I'm honest, if someone was to say to me, right, we're going to do time walking raids, oh, great idea, which one should we start with? Black Temple would be somewhere near the bottom of that list. There are a number of issues with it. First of all, it's got a lot of bosses in it. It's a huge area to traverse. It had a massive amount of trash in it. It was notorious for the trash at the time. I remember doing it. It was a right slog, and it wasn't. Oh my god, the trash! I mean, it was grand. The whole idea was this huge complex with lots of different environments in it, and it worked. It was really good. It was really atmospheric, but so much trash. They can't do that, so they're going to have to come up with something. Whether it's in multiple parts or not, I don't know. That would be, I suppose, one way. So yeah, it's not the one I would have said, but it will be interesting. It will come up on the PTR at some point, and I'll be able to have a go at them, because I'm assuming it will be just a sign up as an LFR thing. So you won't need a group to do that. So that would be. Although sometimes when they bring these things on, like an LFR PTR, depending on when you do it, you might be waiting an hour with a queue. It's not like on live where it's just like a few minutes or something. But we'll see. The other thing is the transmog competition, the in-game transmog competition, the trial of style. Now, this sounds very interesting, to the point where I haven't watched any videos on it yet. I haven't seen any articles. I'm steering clear of that until I can try it out for myself, because that sounds fantastic. I've no idea what it is, but everyone's very excited about it. So I'm thinking, ooh, I want to try this out. So I definitely want to get into the PTR tomorrow and try it out. And then the other thing is there are going to be some class changes coming 7.2.5. Blizzard have announced the specs that they think are going to be in the most need of changing. So what they've talked about is Destruction Warlocks, Outlaw and Subtlety Rogues, Brewmaster and Mistweaver Monks, Havoc Demon Hunters, and Guardian Druids. So what that means ultimately is the changes they plan on making to those specs will be severe enough that it will alter the way you play them. Changes that come to the other classes and specs, we can assume fairly confidently. There might be tweaks. There are already some little tweaks announced, but they will not ultimately change the way you play that character, certainly not to any significant level. So for people wanting me to talk about how Ret Paladin's going to be in 7.2.5, there's no point yet. There's only one little tweak announced, and that's not going to change at all the way you play the character. And it's a necessary one as well. It's not a balancing one, really. It would eventually become a balancing one. So there's nothing to talk about there. The only things to talk about would be these specs, which I don't even play. So, can I play any of those? Not really. Havoc Demon Hunter, I did a bit at the start, didn't I? Gone off that now. But if you play those specs, keep an eye out, because Blizzard are opening that discussion already. If you want to take part in that discussion, now is the time to do it, because hefty changes are coming. And it will affect the way you change the gameplay. And even if you play those classes where there's multiple roles, let's say it says Outlaw and Subtlety Rogues, for example, you might think, well, I just play Assassination. Well, actually, no, you're a rogue. You might want to pay attention to what they're doing with those, because that might change where you put your focus when Tomb of Sargeras Raid comes out. But anyway, that's the news portion of it. So down to sort of channel-y type news now. So thanks for watching if you've just come for the news part of it, and I'll see you later. For those who want to sort of know what's been going on. So, yeah, you'll have noticed this is Saturday. This is also the third time I'm recording this. And again, this is all linked and no title sequence. Reason is, got a new desktop. Ordered it for Saturday specifically so I had a few days to sort of tidy up a little bit in here, get things set up, transfer files from my old computer to an external hard drive, because I don't really have the desk space to set up multiple computers. I only have one monitor for a start. Yes, I know, at some point I should get a second. People keep telling me that. But, you know, at the moment I have one. So, not really got the option to have two going at once. And then. So yesterday was supposed to be transfer all the files that I need from the old computer onto an external hard drive. Got a 2 terabyte hard drive to download what I need. The Fraps files, the video files, which I actually did manage to get, the picture files, music files, everything. Then the gnomes decided to get involved. So I logged onto my computer yesterday and the mouse wasn't working. Well, the cursor was working, but the left and right mouse buttons wouldn't do anything. This was strange, because it worked before I went into Windows. It was only in Windows it wouldn't work. If I went into safe mode, it worked. Just didn't work anywhere else. So after a bit of and ahhing and talking to other people, it became pretty obvious what was up. There was some application on that computer that was preventing it, that was blocking it. I don't know what. I didn't update anything. It wouldn't even make sense to update anything. From my point of view, this was the last day of using that computer, at least in the short term. I'm not going to throw it away, but as my main computer at any rate. So it wouldn't make sense to update anything on it. And I hadn't updated anything on it. I hadn't seen anything automatically updating. Usually get messages about things like that. I could see nothing, no reason, no changes at all have been made. So I was furiously trying to muck about and I was trying things out with keyboard shortcuts. That only got me so far. Only so many keyboard shortcuts, I suppose, work on a GUI. But in my fury at one point, did shut down again with the intention of going back into safe mode. And there were several things open. I'd managed to open several things. And it was the usual thing. Oh, these applications are still running. I can force a shutdown if you like. Yes, do that. And then I went, no, cancel. And it did. It was taking sufficiently long to close down all these applications that it actually obeyed my command and cancelled. But not before it had closed down some applications. And then I tried my mouse again, and it worked. It worked fine. Now, here's what an intelligent person would have done. I'd have gone, great. What do I ultimately want to do at this point? Yes, I want to go on and do my dailies and stuff like that, sure. But what I really need to do is to download stuff onto this external hard drive. I need to download my Fraps files, video files, music files, picture files, profiles, add-ons, all that sort of stuff so that I can upload it. And I know when I set up a new computer, it's going to take a long time anyway to install all the programs. But if I've got like, all that, at least the profiles and stuff, that saves me a job. And I need all those files because it's work in progress for stuff that I'm doing on the channel. But that's what an intelligent person would do. It's not what I did. What I did was think, right, I've got a chance here. Right, I'm going to mess about here. And I'm going to have a little guess of what I think it might be. And I'm going to test it out. Why I did this, I cannot tell you. While I was working, I was able to click on things. I would have easily been able to transfer those files. I could do everything that I needed to do. Whatever application it was that had closed down, but without the whole computer closing down, that now allow me to use the mouse, was obviously not needed for anything I needed to do. But yeah, so I changed some things, restarted, Windows loaded back up. I had guessed wrong, mouse back to not working. And then I tried opening loads of things and trying to force shutdown again to try and recreate my earlier bit of serendipity. It didn't work, never got it working again. Why don't you use a spare mouse, I hear you ask? I should have a spare mouse somewhere, but I don't know where it is. It is possible it never made it with me when I moved house last year, because I don't distinctly remember seeing it recently. So I don't have one to use, which was really powerfully annoying. So the situation was, so yesterday was completely wiped out. Today, obviously, I'm spending almost all day, even though it arrived in the morning, setting the computer up. There's a lot of things to set up, a lot of programs to install, passwords to reset when you can't remember them. Some passwords I remembered. Getting everything loaded in. It's still not completely there, but yeah, so it's now all set up. I haven't got the desk space or the second monitor or anything like that to set the other one up. I could, I suppose, just get another mouse, go to town, get another mouse tomorrow or something like that, and then disconnect this computer, reconnect the other one, and transfer all those things across. But that, I mean, remember the actual process of transferring would take hours. I mean, that's another thing, even across a USB 3. It would take a long time to transfer onto a hard drive and then transfer them back onto here. That would take out the whole day. And I'm thinking to myself, although it's annoying because some of that footage was stuff I was going to do for like Mythic Plus Dungeons, things with the new affixes and stuff like that, I was thinking, should I just cut my losses? It's not the first time this has happened. In September, I lost a lot of work because I'd saved it onto an external stick and I'd lost it and it never turned up. So that was a lot of work lost. I got through that and I'm thinking, okay, well, this is pretty bad news. Because this time, during Easter, I wanted to actually produce quite a bit of content, and a load of it's going to end up being binned, which is annoying. But there's still stuff that I will be planning on doing. So I'd quite like to have a go at a couple of things on PTR tomorrow, and then report back on that. There's the next in the recruitment series, which is on attributes of Mythic Raiders. Which, although some of the notes have gone there, I mean that's a vlog. I mean I can easily redo that one. The sound, by the way, I don't know what the sound's going to sound like on this. The first few times I was recording this, it sounded terrible. I've also got the new lights. The lights I actually got a little time ago, but I've just set up now because they're larger but cooler. They're cooler. They don't produce as much heat as the other ones, so that's quite good. Hopefully it actually works. We'll soon find out. But everything's new. I mean, like the title slide behind me, it looks sort of similar to the other ones I was using for Fireflash. Not the same, because I've had to make it all from scratch again. Everything's going to have to made from scratch. Oh God. But I've just decided, fuck it. I'm just going to cut my losses, as I say, and just start again with some new stuff. See what comes, see what inspiration I get. If anyone wants me to talk about anything, now's the time, by the way, because usually some people sometimes suggest things and go, okay, I'll try and work it in, but there's these things I'm already working on. Well, at the moment, I'm not working on anything, so it's all on another computer. So if anyone wants me to actually discuss some aspect of the game, now is the time to make that suggestion in the comments below, because yeah, mostly it's going to be discussion stuff the next few days anyway, before I start being able to gather up my footage again to be able to talk about anything sensible. There's going to be a rec Q&A coming up at some point. I may even start, my main problem with the stream, people keep asking about streaming, I sort of sometimes do it for a bit and then not. The main thing that stopped it in the past, or the last time I started streaming regularly, was like becoming an officer. So sometimes you end up with like officer type. I need a button that I can press and it just cuts out everything that has been said across our Discord, including what I'm saying. Because that's the downside. It would be one thing to cut out what you hear on Discord. That might be feasible, but then that would also, yeah. So I need, someone sort of mentioned something a bit ago, but I've completely forgotten what it was, and I never had time to chase it up. So in order for me to stream, basically, I need, other than the rec Q&A, the Q&A is a different thing, but I basically need people to say, I need a thing where if we're going into officer chat or talking about things like that, I can press a button and it just takes out all the voice chat at least. But preferably keeps the system sounds, so people don't think there's something wrong with their audio, or something wrong at my end, and to know that it's actually a deliberate thing I've just done. So that would make that easier. But there are some times maybe when I could do it like on a Friday evening or something for a couple of hours perhaps. So I'll keep my eye on that one. Obviously I need to make sure that it's all going to be working. I mean, for example, I went into a Mythic Plus today when I just set this up at a basic level, after setting up my UI again, which is still not complete. Every time I think I've done it, and then I start playing the game, it's like, oh no, that's not quite right. I need to change that. And when I'm in the raids, there'll be icons I've got to tell me when that will not flash up, and I'll be thinking, oh, that's something else I've forgotten. Really annoying. But yeah, I put fraps and it suddenly went down to 1 FPS, completely unplayable. I thought, oh my god, what's happened? So I took that off. And then I decided to try out, I was assuming that was something to do with Windows 10, because Windows 10, I didn't want to get Windows 10. But people were saying, oh, it's got all these new features in it. I think, bugger it then. I'll have to get it at some point, I suppose. So I got Windows, and I thought it was to do with that, because on Windows 10 you can record gameplay, which I'd like to turn off because I don't know if it's conflicting with it. Fraps is much more convenient. For example, on Fraps, it's got no options in the Windows 10 recorder. In Fraps, I can say, don't record what's coming through the mic unless I press this button, and then make it the same button as my push to talk. So if I'm recording something from a raid or a dungeon, you can hear what I'm saying to everyone else, but you don't hear my swearing and spluttering and coughing or anything like that. So, but which is a useful feature. I'm sure we all agree you don't need to listen to my swearing. So then I went into Gamecaster. I loaded up Gamecaster instead. Thought, well, let's see if that records better. And it came up with a message saying, oh, you appear to have this GeForce application thing running, which is also, which I didn't know about, which is also something that you can use to record games. With, again, like next to no settings in it as far as I can tell. Anyway, I haven't explored it in great detail. And then it advised I disable it. So I went and found it and disabled it. And then the Gamecaster was working pretty well. So maybe the Fraps will now. So that will be the next thing I try. But yeah, so I need to be in a position where I've got things to reset up again. I need to get new, I mean, before I stream again, I need to set up images for a start off. Oh God, yeah, I've got some stuff to do. Fortunately, I've still got a few days off before I'm back to work. So I've got a little bit of time to do that. Obviously, I wouldn't have ordered this on a normal weekend. I ordered this specifically knowing that it was going to be in the middle of a holiday where I had a few days where if things didn't go according to plan, I've got the time to sort it through. But yeah, I really wasn't expecting the gnomes to knacker my mouse. I really wasn't expecting that. They can be cunning when they want to be, can't they? But anyway, there we are. That's sort of an explanation of where we are in terms of why not much content this weekend. It should hopefully start getting back up to speed over the next week, and then back into the next weekend should be fine again. But just thought I'd keep you updated. But thanks for listening anyway. Thanks for being patient. Until next time, I'll see you later.